if you're profitable because you're doing your job so well, think of all the changes that you're able to do. One, you can scale your business. Okay. If you're profitable in your individual business, you can now run an agency. So not only are you protecting families, you're now able to recruit, hire, you can hire staff. Now you're protecting a family by hiring a staff and them having an income. Now you're scaling an agent to then have money for their family. And you could do this throughout the United States. So it's a bigger picture once you take care of your bread. All right, we're going to go and get started. Welcome to the Agent Q&A. This is where we come across and answer any questions from live audiences or questions that comes around to us so we can record it and put it out in public. This is going to be on our YouTube video, FFL Elite Clips. Please like and subscribe. So we got a couple of topics today. First topic, and before we start, my name is John. We got our guest.
Hi, everyone.
Joan and Albert. So let's introduce ourselves first. So first topic, what would be your answer to this when it comes down to profitability? Just answer from your philosophy and answer from any type of business that you know of and how it relates to us and to our business. How would you relate profitability or expand on it?
Well, I mean, like we're in a capitalistic venture here, you know, as far as being our own business owners. So profitability has to be the goal, or should be the goal.
Right.
I mean, you can come in and you can break even, I guess. You can come in and lose a little bit of money if you really get that much intrinsic satisfaction from helping people out and getting people protected. But, you know, there really is a way to make it a win-win situation. You know, so profitability, I think, is the best way to do it, me personally, because I'm a capitalist.
Yeah.
And then also, I mean, I also recognize throughout my many years of being in the insurance industry and running my own business, the more profitable you are, the more you can hire staff, the more people that you can bring on and put them in a good position as far as comp and ability to be able to grow and just having resources to be able to reinvest back into your business. So if you're looking kind of just to break even and just kind of just try to survive, look, it's doable, I suppose. And I guess, I don't know, for whatever reason, if that's what you want to do, I just think it's not a very good plan because you're kind of be stuck there for a while. Things could change. Your financial situation could change. Your family situation could change. And then you're kind of scrambling. So why not try to be as profitable as possible from the beginning? And that takes work. You know, you just got to try to understand your business. You're going to make a lot of mistakes along the way. But if you make mistakes, it's fine. You know, that if you don't make mistakes, you're not really growing. You're not really getting an opportunity to really learn anything new. You know, so just take it with a grain of salt, understand it's a long process. Take those lessons and just continue to improve and work on your profitability. Talk to people that have done it before.
Any input on yours?
You know, like I agree with what Albert said, obviously. But that goes with everything that we do. Everything that we do should have some kind of profitability, right? And just like he was just saying now, it's kind of I kind of lost my track of thought, but no, because I wanted to touch base on the fact that I'm like really blanked out. But
well, about what I mean, profitability from your perspective, or from,
because like it goes with everything, right? So, but when you're saying, you know, you're going to create mistakes, you're going to make mistakes, and then if you don't have those mistakes, you basically don't learn. But that, to me, it goes with everything you do. So if you don't make mistakes, I mean, we're going to make mistakes, but within those mistakes comes the growth. And that's, you know, depends on how you look at it. But to me, it's kind of like you're continuing to grow. So you're still profiting from that experience.
Okay. So there's a learning lesson into it.
Yeah.
My input was like in any business, you got to switch out from a W-2 to a business mindset, right? So if you're a W-2, you're trading your time for money. Okay. So a lot of people coming in here, they think, okay, if I get a job, I'm instant making profit. No, you're not making profit. You're trading your time for profit, quote unquote profit. And when you trade your time, someone else is telling you what your time is worth. Right. So in our business, as soon as you switch out and you own your own business, well, what do businesses do? Well, they have to invest into their product. They invest into their time. They invest in their distribution, how they sell, their skill to turn a profit. Right. So when it comes down to profitability, I just want to make sure you understand there's an investment or time needed to become profitable. So you don't want to just think, okay, I'm in an insurance, I'm in my own business, I run my own thing, I want to make money. How do I get money as fast as I can? How do I get a return on investment and all this? Like you got to look at it like any new businesses, typically, for example, restaurants, right? There's like a 90% attrition on restaurants in their first year.
Yep.
Dude, they got to get a place like Clifton. Clifton has just got a new restaurant. They took like 6 months to fix the location before they can even go up to open business. So they bought like kitchen materials. They had to rent and they were paying on the lease in the meantime. And they had to negotiate the lease because they're not even open. Yeah. And then advertisements and then the materials for the food and then finally be in business. Do you think they can make profit on the first week, first month? No. You got to recoup a lot of your investment. So in insurance, it's just so fast for us because what do you need to get licensed? A couple $100. You get licensed in a few weeks, maybe a few days. Then you get an agent number within the next few days and you're thinking about profit right away, right? You can. This is why it's such a great company. It's a great business, great industry, but you got to put in some time for it to be profitable. And that income's in lead investment, you know?
Yeah, I think that's an often overlooked point. I mean, like with Clifton's restaurant example for that analogy, even though they had the physical location, they already know what kind of food they're going to make. They had a menu, everything all set up. They already had, enough staff to get started. Yeah. But the thing is, California, we live in California.
Permits,
a lot of regulations. Yeah. There's permits. You got to bring certain things up to code. I mean, which is essentially the same thing in our business or any business. You got to get certain things out the way to make sure that you're up to code and you're capable of actually running a legitimate business that the government deems that you're okay with running. And then after that, you got to figure out, you have to put in all the different spins of your specific business. So when you mentioned you trade time for money at a W-2, right?
Right.
They determine how much your time is worth.
Yeah.
If you have your own business like we have, then the thing is you determine how much money you make. Yeah. And it's based off of all the moves that you decide to make, all the decisions that you put into your business, the actions that you take, the actions that you don't take, how much you invest, how much you want to work. And when people say like, I'm not making that much money, it's like, well, who determined that? It's like, isn't that your fault?
Why are you not profitable then?
Right. Or which is okay. I mean, if you're not initially, but why aren't you at least trying to figure out what do you need to do differently to make it profitable?
So when you come across an agent in that situation, then, so they're telling you they're not making enough money. What's the first assessment? What's the first inventory check?
And we get it in a kind of an indirect way sometimes. Like people start blaming the leads, or they start blaming like the clients don't pick up or whatever it is. Where in reality, it's kind of like, all right, well, still at the end of the day, and that's still kind of your responsibility to figure out what times you need to call them, what type of leads to work, how to structure your business, how to set up your work schedule, all these different things. So, I mean, I think for me, the frustrating part is just that they don't even come with saying like, I want to make more money. What do I need to fix? They're kind of just like immediately shifting the blame and the focus onto something else.
They're coming into you for a blame game venting instead of like, let's look for progressions.
Right. I don't know. I don't know if they want me to be like, hey, it's going to be okay, which it's not that bad, but it's also not going to be okay if you don't change anything.
Yeah. Or they're not going to be profitable if they don't change anything.
Yeah. So what are you doing? So that would be my first question. What are you doing? Right. How many people are you talking to? How many people are you selling? Okay. Guess it all comes down to that, right? How many people did you speak to? And how many people did you get to sell about life insurance? But if you can't sell life insurance to nobody, you didn't get to speak to enough people, well, that's your problem. How can we fix that? How can we get you in front of more people? Leads help. Yeah. So if you're not buying leads, okay, well, what else are you doing? Are you like instant messaging people? Are you Facebook, joining groups, something to get you in front of people out there? Right?
Yeah, I think that mentality shift is the most important thing, because it's just difficult talking to a person that says like, hey, I want to get better results. And then everything you bring up, they have the problem to every solution that you bring up, which, I mean, to me, I'm thinking, all right, well, I have logical and pragmatic things that you can actually apply to your business and try to change if you're actually willing to listen, you're actually willing to be open-minded about it and actually apply it. Yeah. But if you're just trying to complain this entire time, I'm like, I don't know. I really can't help you.
They're not even listening.
I really can't help you because you don't want to help yourself.
Right. Sometimes, it's just more like, do you want to vent or do you want solutions?
Yeah. Which, I mean, like, I get it if people want to vent. Like, I'm okay with that because you and I would like to have like a good laugh about it, and just because
I'm
it's
just
like, well, we laugh about the things that you can't change anyway. So
Right.
like, what's the point of being upset about it?
Yeah. So you got to identify your control. What can you control? What can you not? Okay. So if you have a lead vendor, here's an example. Let's say you don't agree or you don't like the lead vendor. What can you control?
Hey, stop using that lead vendor.
Right.
I don't know. Pretty simple.
No. Here's the problem of an agent. They will not like this lead vendor. They will stop using the lead vendor and do nothing else.
Right.
Oh.
What's the problem there?
Yeah, they didn't substitute the vendor. They stayed with that.
So they're complaining about the vendor. They stopped using the vendor. How do you continue to be profitable? How do you change that?
Although my point, I mean, even though I say like, hey, you can stop using that lead vendor if you really hate it so much or it's not getting you results. Although that's not what I would actually do. I would actually take a step back and evaluate how am I working these leads? Like how many times am I calling them? What time of the day I'm calling them? Have I started an automated drip campaign, like to text them and email them? Am I leaving voicemail messages? When am I timing all this stuff out? And this comes from trial and error. This comes from just doing it.
Yeah.
And then by you doing it, you recognize, okay, this works for me. This doesn't work for me. If this doesn't work for me, I got to stop doing this. If this works for me, maybe I got to do it in higher intensity, do a little bit more. And most importantly, like the biggest point when it comes to leads, if they say like, hey, I haven't been able to get people on the phone or haven't been able to make contact or making sales yet, I'm always like, okay, then you probably need more leads.
Yeah.
It's probably not the answer the agents want to hear because for them, it's just like, now I got to spend more money that I haven't seen any money on. But generally for those agents that bring that concern up, they have a small quantity of leads to begin with. And I'm like, what did you expect to happen?
And I think that's the problem is they're working on smaller quantity, expecting the highest efficiency on a lead in a sense, right? When sometimes you just need more leads to get you that. And then once you figure all these things out, you have a system, you have disciplines, and then you get to differentiate which leads produces more, which higher cost leads gets you higher income.
Yeah.
Your profitability makes a difference because now you can reinvest on that. Right. So the biggest issue is you're not you, but an agent could be overthinking too far ahead when they need to trade sweat equity first before their pocketbook,
right?
Because they're not there yet with their profitability until you get there. So,
well, what I've come to learn about that particular type of situation is just that the agent needs to actually just take a leap of faith,
right?
Because what's really happening in that whole scenario in their head is they're just thinking, I want this to be proven to me first before I actually dive into this thing.
Yes.
Where I'm like, okay, well, I don't know how your life works. and I don't know what delusional dream world that you live in, but it's never worked that way for me. It doesn't work that way for anyone that's had a successful business. You have to take that leap of faith yourself, anticipating that you're going to make it work.
Yes.
And be willing to put in that work and be willing to mess it up and be willing to learn along the way. And then you'll start getting some results as a result of that, putting in that work.
Yeah.
And then once you start getting that work in, then you're like, okay, now I can actually do this. Now I can make some adjustments along the way. So it does require some faith. It can't just be like, hey, I'm going to buy 5 leads and expect to make 5 sales and expect it all to go smoothly.
Yeah.
Like it just will not happen that way. I mean, there's a small probability it may.
It may be your lucky day that day.
And you might be the luckiest agent in the world. But then again, I mean, look, if you don't get your ass beat a little bit in that situation, you start off and you start off hot, you make a lot of money. It actually kind of works against you in terms of it doesn't build up any mental fortitude for you.
Right.
You don't have the opportunity to be able to see, okay, I've been through this struggle, this adversity. I can overcome this going forward. I'm ready for bigger challenges. Like you're just going to be like, hey, I sold for 5 for 5. When I first started, everything should be that easy. And then the first no sale, you're gonna be disappointed.
Yeah.
And then you start doubting yourself.
Yeah.
So
and then now you're looking for the answers again now, or you're looking for the wrong answers to prove that it's not working. Right. So you got to be really assumptive in yourself that you're going to make it work because it's all on you, and assumptive about the process that it's going to work, the sales process, the leads process, and just the insurance process. Because if you're half stepping it, which a lot of agents are doing, right? They half step it, don't buy as much leads, and they're fearing for all the no's that can happen. They're looking for the wrong answers already to show that it's not working.
Yeah. Or they want someone or something to prove to them, hey, it does work now, keep doing it.
Yeah.
When in reality it's like that, you know who that person is?
Yeah,
You.
you got to work. We got to put in the work. You'll make it happen.
Yeah.
So, any other topics on that end as far as profitability? If not, we're going to move on to the next subject. Okay, so the next subject's more about closing. So it's a combination of closing of like, you know, how stories sell, how stories build credibility, and how stories create urgency. Because of course, you start talking about stories about someone passing away before they get insurance.
Yep.
Along on top of that, any specific lines that you normally use to get the urgency done and to also remove a little bit of the affordability factor or the price factor, all combination, right?
I don't know about specific stories because I mean those kind of come to you based off of situational thing. But I mean, as far as how stories sell, I mean, I think if you run to a situation with a client that you've encountered before, I think it's always helpful to be like, hey, so what most of my clients have seen is this, or what most of my clients have how they've dealt with it is this. How clients like you that I've dealt with in the past, they've chosen to go this route. You know, I think for a lot of times people are just kind of uncertain about whether or not they should start it. They know that the general idea of needing to have insurance when you die.
Yeah.
Most people get that concept, right?
Yeah.
It's just but they may be in denial for a while about it because they just haven't been convinced yet that it's their time to do it, or this is the time, the urgency in terms of needing it at the moment.
Especially when you're selling on the phone, you have clients that, I'm looking for life insurance, and then you get them the information and it's like, okay, let me kind of mull this over, let me think about it, and then it's a little difficult trying to convince them in person compared to on the phone,
right,
to create that urgency, right?
Right.
So do you have any, like, I wouldn't call it bulletproof, but do you have one-liners or two-liners that you normally use to try to convince a client when they tell you, Albert, you know what, let me mull this over, let me think about this, even though everything made sense?
Yeah. Well, I mean, at that point, I mean, I just started getting a little bit more blunt with them and just start asking the question, being like, okay, no, I totally understand that. So what is it exactly that you want to think about? Is it the price? Is it that it's not enough coverage? Is it too much coverage? Is it just you don't like my voice? Like what is it? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just at least get them to like honestly answer you rather than they say they want to think about it because they're not going to think about it. Yeah. That's the reality. And then even if you showed some value right now and then they see the value of getting it, if you let them off the hook, the thing is that intensity is going to continue to diminish the longer they have to think about it.
Yeah.
And they won't be thinking about it as soon as you hang up
They're not even going to think about it.
No. So you've blown it anyway at that point if you let them go. So might as well just be upfront with them and just be like, hey, what is exactly you want to think about? So at least I can learn from this.
Right.
And then, then they'll be like, oh, most of the time, if they're honest, they'll say it's the money.
Yeah.
Right. So then at that point, then you'd be like, okay, so I mean, if it's the money, I mean, like, is it just that you can't afford it and this is going to be a little tough? Because we can always look at something smaller. And then just, at this point, you're kind of just putting your arm around them, metaphorically, and then just showing them that it shouldn't be an adversarial thing.
Right.
Right. And then so if you can do that, then, it puts them a little bit more at ease, and then at least you can kind of identify what it really is.
Yeah. Because I think when it comes down to closing, there is an apprehension of an agent to battle a client, right? And sometimes the wrong way is to battle the client instead of helping them and guiding them and holding their hands and help them walk across the street into the application, right? So do you sense that from the top telesales people, they're really comfortable in catering to the client to get them going?
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. I think JP's pretty good at that. He's good. JP's, if you guys are not on live dials, he listens but doesn't really listen. He cuts them off real quick. Well, let me ask you another question, and then to get them to his idea, right?
Yeah, I agree. So the thing is, you shouldn't battle them. You shouldn't try to disprove their points.
Right.
Like that's never really a good tactic in sales. Like what you should do is just try to understand it and be like, okay, I understand. I mean, is this what it is, and read it and then recite it back to them, and then be like, how about we do this? And so that's what a client wants. I mean, they want to feel like they're making a right decision. They want to feel like what they're doing is right. So you got to reinforce that.
Yeah. And then this is where, a story would come in. If you don't know any stories, it's good to listen about other stories that happen. We've been in insurance for 10 plus years. Right. I've had some crazy stories where like I had a client, man, I feel bad. One of my craziest stories was the lady I was presenting to was a nurse, and she worked 2 jobs. Her husband stayed at home. They had 3 kids, and I was presenting her. I'm brand new. I'm in my first year, and I didn't know what a one-legged was. I'm presenting her. The husband's there. It's not one-legged, right? But the husband was inside the home the whole time. Never listened to it. I'm trying to do an application, and she wants it. Husband calls her out and say, "Hey, we got to go. We got to go to the park. We got to take these kids to the park." Little old me, brand new. Okay, yeah, I'll see you next week. Never saw him again. Of course, she had 2 jobs. She kept on going to a job, going to a job. It wasn't until later, like a few months later, the mom calls me, finds my card in her purse because she passed away. She passed away in the hospital because apparently she had a pregnancy complication. She had a baby. She had swine flu, passed away. Couldn't get him covered. Now, the husband was the one that needed it, right?
She was the breadwinner, and she's gone now, right?
Right. So if you don't have any stories, it's good to listen about stories, because these stories will come in and tell them, like, this is the situation that we see. We find clients, they want to think about it. It's the right time. Why don't we just take the next 5-10 minutes now before anything happens? So while you're thinking about it, same thing. The insurance company's got to think about it. They have to underwrite you. You have options. You have a 10-day free look period. So all these little things that we're saying, it's there to ease the client from having to make a pressure decision, to make it feel like the decision is not really pressure. It's just one step to the next step. Here's how it works. Then you get your policy. Then you get your draft. Then you get the policy to look over. You let me know. I'm going to call you again in the next week or so. So you just got to make sure you're not a fly-by-night type of agent. Hey, I came in. Thanks for your social and your bank account. Click. Right. Have you ever had any situations where you missed a client and they passed then?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been in the industry for over 17 years. So yeah, I've had a few of those, but a lot of times it's more by the time you actually get a hold of the lead, because, they never pick up,
right,
or whatever the case is. And then finally you talk to them and it's like their spouse, and they're like, "Oh, so-and-so just passed away." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, that sucks." I mean, it sucked. And it didn't suck that, we weren't able to make the sales, but it sucked for that family. It's an actual family that's going through it, and they didn't have insurance, and we could have made a difference had we'd been able to get a hold of them sooner. And I don't know. I try to be diligent about working my leads, because, as soon as my leads come in, I'll call them, and I'll start a text automated campaign or something.
Yeah.
But I'm going to try to make contact with them. And sometimes, unfortunately, you just can't ever get a hold of certain people, and it is what it is. But if you did your part, then I can live with that at least.
Right. It's not your fault the way that happens then, right? But if you did buy the leads, then you didn't call them. Then they passed away.
It sucks. It just sucks,
dude. So it's not, think about going back to profitability, man. You lost out on a sale. The family lost out on an insurance. Things could have been taken care of if you would have done your job. So tough scenarios. But going back to the stories, when these things happen, you got to just look past what you're doing now. We're doing something bigger, right? We're building a business. We're protecting families, and just think bigger. If you're profitable because you're doing your job so well, think of all the changes that you're able to do. One, you can scale your business. Okay, if you're profitable in your individual business, you can now run an agency. So not only are you protecting families, you're now able to recruit, hire. You can hire staff. Now you're protecting a family by hiring a staff and them having an income.
Right.
Now you're scaling an agent to then have money for their family, and you could do this throughout the United States.
Right.
So it's a bigger picture once you take care of your bread.
Yeah, no, I totally look at it that way. I'm still selling from time to time now, because I still want to stay in the game, and I'm having fun with it actually.
Yeah.
I'm trying to try different lead vendors and try different lead types, and just be able to share some practical knowledge with people, and plus be on the live dials so people can kind of hear me and follow along. But I look at it that way. It's like it's not my full-time role to be a salesperson anymore, because I have a business to run. But the way I look at it is like I'm responsible for everyone on my team, my staff, everything else. And part of it, it's like I want to be a income generator for people around me. Right. So I want to be able to have an infrastructure, so people near me that want to come work with me have an opportunity to be able to make money. Now, it's not an automatic thing. People got to put in work. They got to do their own part. But, that's the bigger vision that I have for myself, rather than, hey, I sell insurance, or, hey, I run an insurance agency. Like I'm a income generator, and people around me will have the opportunity.
That's a new title right there, instead of a board member. Albert Lau, income
Income
generator. Hey, what do you do,
Founder
man?
and income generator.
I make you money. I make money by making you money.
Or yeah, I mean, realistically, it's like we make money together.
Yeah,
Because if I bring people in, they don't make any money. Like I don't make any money off of that.
right.
And then if so it's to my benefit to make sure that they have every opportunity to. I mean, I can't do it for them because if I have to do everything for them, then what do I need them for?
Right. So you got to be your own income generator and then think big. Create an income for you, scale, see how big this opportunity can take you. Right. So that's pretty much all that we have on the questions available that we thought of. We're now going to tune into the live portion. Anybody have any? Feel free to unmute.
I was thinking in terms of, it is kind of hit and miss with calling leads, but if there's any analytics out there in terms of what times are callers or are people more likely to call in? Do
Okay.
we have anything like that?
No,
Or
so
the call?
yeah. Let me expand on that. But yeah, so timing wise, you got to assume when will a client pick up, right? So when we buy leads, okay, we have different types of leads. If you're looking at working final expense, your target demographic will be ages 50 to 85. Okay. If you're seeing clients in their 70s and up, there's no time frame to not call them because they're retired, right? They're open. Some old clients, man, they're up by 3 a.m., 5 a.m. They prefer it. The only time they don't pick up is if they're in a doctor's appointment, or two, you do want to call them more often because other people are calling them. They're getting telemarketed like crazy. When it comes down to like Medicare enrollments, multiple dials are happening for them. They might have filled out one form and then next thing you know, 2-3 pop-ups happen online and now they filled out 4 forms and then multiple agents and companies are calling them. So there's really no time frame on that. It happens. And sometimes it's just a stroke of luck when they finally pick up on your line, right? Advisable thing to do is when you dial, you want to dial 2 to 3 times. People are dialing 3 times because the first one, if you've ever had that, it was an unknown number. You call, you send it straight to voicemail because you don't know who it is. But if they dialed again, now you're curious. They're like, oh, wonder if this is an emergency. They're really calling. Send it to voicemail again. And the third time, you're like, all right, this might be an emergency. Let me pick up and see what it is. So these are tactics that we do when we triple dial. Timing wise, early. Legality wise, people are dialing from 8 all the way up until nighttime till 9 p.m.
I think 8:30 is the official cutoff, unless a client says call me back at 9 or 10 or whatever.
Yeah, so I would do 8 to 8:30. There's no issues. I do have an assistant. She mistakenly called a Georgia client. She saw GA, but she thought it was CA, and she called it at 8:30 our time. So I was like 11:30 over there.
Was the client? Did the client pick up?
The client booked, but yeah, she was a little mad. He was a little mad. But I explained to her, oh, I'm sorry. She must have thought you were California from GA to CA. It was a close association. I made that up.
Well, as far as my take on when's the best time to call. I mean, I think generally most people, they'll get a feel for once you start actually doing it. Because it also depends on the type of leads that you're working, as John kind of brought up. If you're getting a younger demo, usually you'll have to call them later on in the afternoon and evening when they get home from work. Although a lot of people work from home now. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of different things. I mean, so you'll generally notice a pattern as you continue to work if you work the same lead type, and you can call them anytime. I mean, we call them morning, afternoon, evening. You also want to keep a log. Like for me, I started using Ringy, so I mean that's been able to track my call logs and see when I call them, when I text them, all this other stuff. So then if I notice, hey, they're not picking up in the morning, I should call them in the afternoon or I should call them in the evening. So you got to keep doing it till the job's done.
Yeah. I would play around with your schedule, but yeah, definitely want to start early. So try dialing from 8 to 12, take your break, come back in either like from 4 to 8 or switch it up. Dial from 8 to 11, take a break from 11 to 12, and then see if you can dial from 12 to 2. Because now I'm thinking, oh, maybe I can catch people that are working that are on their lunch break and they'll pick up. Okay. And then from 2, I'm thinking if I'm dialing a person that's picking up their kids, I normally pick up my kid at 2:30. So they'll probably be available around 3. Let me start dialing them from 3 to 4, 3 to 5. Yeah. Maybe they're done by dinner by 6. So let me try dialing from 7 to 8, 8:30. So you play around with it and see how many pickups you're gathering. So this is where you want to create your own analytics, right? From this time to this time, I booked this many appointments. This time to this time, I booked this many appointments. And you get to figure out, okay, maybe I have a dead time. Back in our old company, we had a dead time from like 12 to 3 because we generally called working clients. And so we went to lunch.
We were stuck with those back then, the way that we did business. But here's a pro tip for all the West Coast people. Like we're here in California, here in LA.
Yeah.
Like for me personally, I like to work. I got my non-resident license in a bunch of East Coast states.
Yeah.
And central states, and like I like to start dialing them early.
Yeah.
You know, because I want to be able to control my schedule as much as possible. You know, if something comes up and needs to be done, no matter what time it is, I'll get it done. But if I'm going to be dialing, if I'm be presenting to clients, I would prefer to work early in the day.
Yes.
Start doing all my dials in the morning, because ideally I would like to be finished by 4 or 5 if I can. Right. And I can do that with East Coast in particular. West Coast, you still can do it. But the thing is, you know, you're going to miss all the people that come home later on in the afternoon, and, you know, whatever the case is. And then right now, I mean, the Lakers are not necessarily like a championship caliber team, but, you know, they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, man.
You know,
It's
so
to watch.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be like, hey, I'm going to watch Lakers and not work, but, you know, why don't I just try to get my work done early?
Yeah.
So, you know, we control the schedule. If you plan it out, you know, that's for me. I think it's a great option to be able to start early, try to end your day, you know, by 4 or 5 if you can. If you're satisfied with your results and you're okay with your financial situation, you can do that. I mean, if you're not, keep working, keep going, and you can even buy like Hawaii leads and start calling later on in the evening. And
right. We had some hustlers that did that. Right. They started at 5 a.m., called the East Coast, and ended at 10 p.m. because they were calling Hawaii people, which is only 7 p.m. They're 3 hours behind it. Right. You could work 14, 15-hour days here if you wish.
There's always a way if you're willing to be honest with yourself.
Right.
Like if you're cool with your financial situation and you're not going to complain about it, then I don't know, do as little work as you want. But if you're going to be like, hey, I need to take care of this, I need to take care of this, and I'm not there yet. Like there's ways out there, but you just need to accept it.
Yeah. Just to add to that too, it's like a lot of people love working the weekends because of that. So when they're calling and they're dialing, guess who's off on the weekends? Telemarketers. Yeah. So the people that are picking up, like it's going to be you to them, and they know like, who is this? It could be a family member or something. Just to add to that though, think about playing around with your area codes. Mm-hmm. If you are working out of state, you know, non-California, if you're in the West Coast, leads, Ringy, which Albert uses, you could buy zip codes in there for cheap. Yeah. And then you could dial with their you know, home-based area code.
Yeah. So
zip code, area code, not zip codes.
So your outgoing caller ID reflects the same state as them.
Yeah. Which
I've noticed it's actually helped, because when I used to call directly from my cell phone with my LA number,
right,
a lot of people never picked up. And as soon as I tried with different numbers, like they picked up, and you know.
So a lot of experimentation can happen. But the first thing is you just want to go through it, dial away, figure it out from there. Any other questions? If not, we'll wrap it up. And we're going to wrap it up. So, all right. So thanks for joining us. This is going to be out live on YouTube.